إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So we start today inshallah Azza wa Jal with the story of Yusuf alayhi as-salatu was-salam. The one that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the hadith of Ibn Umar, as in Sahih al-Bukhari, Al-Karimu ibn al-Karimi ibn al-Karim. Yusuf ibn Yaqub ibn Ishaq ibn Ibrahim alayhim as-salatu was-salam. His father is a prophet, his grandfather is a prophet, and his great-grandfather is a prophet. Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam, he saw the corruption in the palaces and castles of the Fara'ina, the pharaohs, in Masr, in Egypt, and their transgression. He knew the leaders of his ummah that he lived amongst at his time. He knew what was in it of corruption, of idol worship. They take idols as their gods, and also cows as gods with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The story of this noble prophet is long. And Shaykh Rabi' says that he will only take from it from ayah 36 to ayah 40. From Surah Yusuf, ayah 36 to ayah 40. I would like for someone to post the translation for that. And we will instantly read the meaning of the ayat in English. And there entered with him two young men, yani when he was in prison. One of them said, "Verily, I saw myself," meaning in a dream, "pressing wine." The other said, "Verily, I saw myself," yani also in a dream, "carrying bread on my head, and birds were eating thereof. Inform us of the interpretation of this. Verily, we think you are one of the muhsinun," yani doers of good. He said, "No food will come to you as your provision, but I will inform its interpretation before it." Yani whatever food comes to you, whether in reality or in your dream, I will tell you before it happens. This is of that which my Lord has taught me. Verily, I have abandoned the religion of a people that believe not in Allah and are disbelievers in the hereafter. Let's take a benefit here. We have to stop because this is one of the benefits that after I heard it, I was what can I tell you? The feeling when somebody learns something, a huge benefit like this. طيب. Do we have a problem with YouTube? Is everything all right on YouTube? Fine, alhamdulillah. طيب. When you get a benefit and you get goosebumps. طيب. Yusuf says, alayhi salatu wassalam, "Inni taraktu millata qawmin la yu'minuna billahi wa hum bil akhirati hum kafirun." I have abandoned the religion of a people that do not believe in Allah and are disbelievers in the hereafter. When was he ever on their religion? What is the answer? The answer is, he was never on their religion. What does it mean? وَإِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ. And I have abandoned the religion of a people. His father is a prophet, Yaqub. His grandfather is a prophet, Ishaq. His great-grandfather is a prophet, Ibrahim. He was upon Islam. So what is the meaning of the word tark? Abandon, meaning juhud, yajhadu, disbelieve in. طيب. إني تركت, I have abandoned, meaning he was worshipping other than Allah and then he abandoned. لا, this was never the case. He's a prophet, the son of a prophet, the son of a prophet, the son of a prophet. He was always upon Tawheed and Islam. So abandon meaning he disbelieves. He disbelieves in the religion of these people that worship other than Allah Azza wa Jal. And from here, Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala took the meaning of yatruk or taraka, abandon, and said that it means to disbelieve in. Thus we have the difference in opinion between the ulama. Like for example in the madhab of Imam Ahmad and what Imam Shafi'i said. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, بين العبد والكفر والشرك ترك الصلاة. Between a abd and disbelief and shirk is tark, the abandonment of salah. And the other hadith, العهد الذي بيننا وبينهم, the covenant between us and them, يعني the kuffar and the Muslims. الصلاة, salah. فمن تركها فقد كفر. Whosoever abandons it, then he has committed kufr. Ash-Shafi'i said disbelieved in it. Abandon it as in disbelieving in it, making istihlal of abandoning it. Al-Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal said it is general as it is. Abandoning it meaning abandoning it. Whether he disbelieved in it or he said that it is what? Or that he abandoned it out of laziness. But Imam Shafi'i said, La, look at this ayah. Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam said what? Inni taraktu millata qawmin. And he was never with them. So here doesn't mean abandon, meaning disbelief. That's why we have this difference of views, ya ikhwa, between the ulama. Now you understand why there are two sayings for the ulama, two views. So whosoever abandons salah is no longer a Muslim, as the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and it is correctly so because of the generality of the hadith. It says abandoned. And the other saying of the ulama, that what? Abandon meaning to disbelieve in. To make istihlal, saying it is to disbelieve in the salah. Say it's not from the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. Why? As the meaning in this ayah. Muhammad Azim says, the understanding of the scholars is mind-blowing. Yes, wallahi. Wallahi, it's mind-blowing. That's why when you read, you get goosebumps when you're reading Allahu Akbar. But we understand now the difference. طيب. Allahumma barik. Akhi Alexander, how are you? Akhi Alexander, I love you for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. أحبك في الله. طيب. This is just a benefit that, يعني, since we came to this ayah, I could not just let it go without saying this benefit. طيب. Let's continue reading the translation of the ayah. Before we continue, one of the greatest acts of worship is to love someone for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And someone loves you also for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's why you always hear Imam Ibn Baz rahimahullah ta'ala saying, making the dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us, him and the people with him, from those who love one another for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And when someone says, أحبك في الله, I love you for the sake of Allah, you say, أحبك الله الذي أحببتنا به. May Allah love you. May Allah, the one you loved us for, His sake, loves you as well. طيب. Let's continue reading. طيب. And I have followed the religion of my fathers. Look, he's saying now, Yusuf, and I have followed the religion of my fathers, Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub, and never could we attribute any partners whosoever to Allah. This is from the grace of Allah to us and to mankind. But most men thank not. يعني do not thank. يعني do not give gratitude. O two companions of the prison, are many different arbab, lords, gods, better, or Allah, the one, the irresistible. يعني الواحد القهار. Qahar is the one who has dominion over all things, and nothing can resist his dominion. طيب. You do not worship besides him, but only names which you have named, and you and your fathers. Yani you're only worshipping names that you have named, you and your fathers, for which Allah has sent no authority, no evidence. The command is for none but Allah. He has commanded that you worship none but Him. That is the straight religion. But most men know not. Allahu Akbar. These are the ayat from Surah 36 to Surah 4, from Ayah 36 to Ayah 40 from Surah Yusuf. What is Yusuf doing? He's been put in jail. You know the story of Yusuf. He's put in jail. They put him in jail unrighteously, oppressed him unjustly. They put him in jail. Did he rally up the people? Did he say, protest on the streets? I was put here without justice. What was he doing in jail? Was he teaching people politics and how to protest and how to revolt? Even though the rulers back then, they were not Muslims. But what did he do? He commanded to Tawheed. So when you have the du'at nowadays that come to you and they tell you, we have to call to Tawheed, we have to call to Tawheed, and Tawheed, and they are following the messengers. The ones that are telling you everything will be rectified with Tawheed, and with calling to Tawheed, and looking at the Quran and the Sunnah, and following the example of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and all the messengers and the prophets. You say, this is the da'wah of the messengers and the prophets and what Allah commanded them to do. The Shaykh says, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve him, Rabi' ibn Hadi al-Madkhali. He says, عاش هذا النبي الكريم. This noble prophet has lived in mansions, في القصور, in castles. وعرف مفاسد الحكم, and he has known the corruption of ruling. والحكام, and rulers. عن كتب, from a very close experience. وذاق من ويلاتهم كيدا وظلما واضطهادا وسجنا. And he has tasted from their punishments, plotting, injustice, hatred, and prison. وعاش بين ظهراني أمة وثنية, and he has lived amongst an ummah, a nation that worship the idols. تعبد الأصنام والأبقار والكواكب, they worship idols, cows, and stars and planets. فمن أين ينطلق للإصلاح? So where does he start rectifying and correcting from? ومن أين تكون نقطة البداية? And where is the starting point? هل يبدأ في الدعوة إلى الله وهو مسجون ظلما? Does he start with the da'wah to Allah Azza wa Jal while he is unjustly imprisoned? يشاركه في السجن مظلومون مثله مثله, those that are in prison with him are also unjustly imprisoned. Does he start from inciting them against the rulers, the unjust tyrant rulers? And this is a political way to do it. There is no denying it. And the chance is there. The chance to do so is absolutely there. أو يبدأ بالدعوة من حيث انطلق آباؤه, or he starts with the da'wah from where his fathers started. Al-Kiram, his noble fathers. وعلى رأسهم, on top of them, and on top of the list, Ibrahim al-Khalil. Ibrahim, Khalilullah, Ibrahim, the beloved by Allah. وإمام الدعوة إلى توحيد الله, the Imam of da'wah to the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. And from where all of the messengers have started. لا شك, there is no doubt, أن طريق الإصلاح, that the way to rectifying the matters, يعني of the ummah, الوحيد, the only way, في كل زمان ومكان, in every time, at every place, هو طريق الدعوة إلى العقيدة والتوحيد وإخلاص العبادة لله وحده, is the da'wah to proper aqidah, tawheed, and sincerely to worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Allahu Akbar. Ya akhwa, write this down. Write this down. In Surah Yusuf, Ayah 40, Allahu Akbar. Wallahi, this is a huge, huge benefit. This is something that we need to memorize and say it instantly to anyone who comes and says, they're not ruling by the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal. We want the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal. There are rulers that don't rule by the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal. Say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. Surely ruling, command is only for Allah Azza wa Jal. Ruling is only for Allah Azza wa Jal. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. Ruling is only for Allah. The very next words are what? Amara, he commanded. Allah ta'budu illa iyyah, that you do not worship anyone except him. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. That is the worthy, valuable religion. You say, start with that. You want ruling by the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal? Then instead of shouting and screaming about the ruling and about the injustice and whatnot, start shouting and screaming about the injustice of Muslims going and associating others with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether knowingly or out of ignorance, and that's even if we can call them Muslims. The one who goes and worships other than Allah Azza wa Jal is not a Muslim. But we know that when it comes to takfir, the criteria has to be met. From tawafur al-shurut wa intifa' al-mawani. But the one that worships other than Allah Azza wa Jal is not a Muslim, by the consensus of every Muslim. So when somebody comes and shouts and screams, ruling by the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal, you say, Na'am, the first thing is not making dua to other than Allah Azza wa Jal, not making an oath or a vow to other than Allah Azza wa Jal, nadhr, not to slaughter to other than Allah Azza wa Jal, not to make hajj and pilgrimage to other than Allah Azza wa Jal, not to prostrate to the graves, not to make istighatha and love and hate the love which is dedicated to Allah, and the afwan, not hate, I said hate, the love and hope that you have, and the fear that is only dedicated to Allah Azza wa Jal, you dedicate it to someone else. To prostrating to the graves, going and putting the money and sacrificing and so on, the wealth for the grave itself and those who are engraved, circulating around the graves and the catastrophes, doing sihr, doing magic, taking magic and what do you call them, trinkets, and saying that they bring good and bad, anything that touches upon Tawheed. Why aren't you screaming about that? Isn't that the most important and the number one thing that comes on top of the list when we say ruling by the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal? The amulets, na'am. When you say ruling by the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal, the first law is La ilaha illallah. The first thing that you have to say, the first thing that you have to be implementing, the first thing that you have to be concerned with, the slogan of your da'wah should be Tawheed, Aqidah. All worship should be dedicated to Allah Azza wa Jal, and we should have pure Aqidah and making the religion sincere to Allah Azza wa Jal. You're calling for the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal, and nowhere can we find you talking about Tawheed. Well, it should be 90% of what you are saying is about Tawheed, and 100% of what we are saying, what you are saying and what we are hearing is what? Injustice, the prices are up, dunya, worldly things, wealth. That's the only thing that is being said. And you are looking for the dunya, you're not looking for the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal. So whenever someone comes and says they have to rule by the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal, you say, Na'am, and I want you now, since you are talking about this and you are so concerned and you keep talking about this, then you should keep on talking about Tawheed and how we can eradicate the madahir of shirk and kufr, disbelief of Allah Azza wa Jal, throughout the Muslim lands. How can we educate one another and spread the pure aqidah and teach the people that this is major kufr that gets one outside the fold of Islam? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, In al-hukmu illa lillah. Ruling is only for Allah Azza wa Jal. What are the next words? Amara an la ta'budu illa iyyah. He has commanded that you worship none but him subhanahu wa ta'ala. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. That is the worthy religion. The first thing that was mentioned after that ruling is for Allah Azza wa Jal. He commanded subhanahu wa ta'ala that you only worship him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you want to call to a ruling by the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal, then start calling with all your effort and power and time and age and umr that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you to the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. Don't come and tell us politics. Don't come and tell us the prices are up. Don't come and tell us there is injustice. Don't come and tell us we are going to call to manners, to good things. Don't come and tell us that change starts with only changing one person, changing the one who is in authority. Where is the Tawheed in any of that? Don't come and talk to us about elections, about democracy, about any of these things. Come talk to us about Tawheed, Tawheed. Why have you forgotten about Tawheed? إن الحكم إلا لله أمر أن لا تعبدوا إلا إياه ذلك الدين القيم. Do you read the Quran? Or do you read and you do not understand? Isn't this ayah in the book of Allah Azza wa Jal where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instantly mentioned after the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal, telling us, explaining to us, what is the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal? It is Tawheed, to worship none but him. But what do we see? We see people that call for politics. People call for worldly gains, for high positions, statuses, wealth. And if you talk to them about Tawheed, la, this is not what they are screaming and yelling for. Allah did not call us for politics, did not call us for sectarianism and making sects and brotherhoods. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never talked to us about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to us about Tawheed. Ruling by the ruling of Allah is by Tawheed. And when you get an ummah that is upon Tawheed, you will get rulers that rule by the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the greatest and the most important of the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ruling by the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Tawheed, which everything else is based upon and revolves around. If it is not there, nothing of what we do is counted on the day of judgment. Wallahi, if we prayed day and night, if we made dua day and night and fasted every day, and made hajj every year, and made umrah every month or a couple of months, if we are not upon Tawheed, we do not get one single hasanah. Not even one. It's like someone who is praying without making wudu. If he prayed day and night, if he does not make wudu, as if he did not pray. It's not going to do him any good. Understand this. Al-Shaykh Al-Allama, one of the knights of the Sunnah, Shaykh Rabi' ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, says, وَبَعْدَ هَذَا الْبَيَانِ الْوَاضِحِ وَالدَّعْوَةِ الصَّارِخَةِ. And after this clear clarification and shrieking, يعني screaming, da'wah, يعني his shrieking da'wah to Tawheed and turning away from shirk, he emphasizes his da'wah and his evidence by saying, إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. Ruling is only for Allah Azza wa Jal. ثُمَّ يُفَسِّرُ هَذِهِ الْحَاكِمِيَّةِ. Then he explains this hakimiyya, this ruling, بِتَوْحِيدِ اللَّهِ وَعِبَادَتِهِ وَحْدَهِ. He explains it by the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal and worshipping him alone. He commanded that you only worship him. That is the worthy, valuable religion. And from the fiqh of these ayat, fiqh of Yusuf, يعني the fiqh of these ayat from the biography of Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam, that calling to Tawheed is a must. It's something that you cannot escape or turn away from. And that there is no belittling or being lenient with disbelief and combating it. And let it be known, ya ikhwa, that when Yusuf has taken the high status in Misr, in Egypt, the high status that he has taken it under a disbeliever ruler. A disbelieving ruler who was not ruling by the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jal, as is known. I will stop here, inshallah Azza wa Jal, and we will start with replying crystal clear.